The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by Mid-Carolina Service Company.
Mid-Carolina Service Company is the first name to search for your residential or commercial HVAC needs in Lexington and surrounding areas.
Just go holler at Jason and Clint. They'll hook you up on the air conditioners, on the restaurant equipment, refrigerators, refrigeration, ice machine repair. They've been doing this for years. I know them cats forever.
Family owned and operated since 2006, they pride themselves in their quality work and customer relationships. Call 803-356-4153 or visit midcarolinaserviceco.com for a no obligation quote for service today. This episode of Hilltop Glove Podcast is proudly sponsored by Your Dollar Store, located at 3017 Farrell Road in Columbia, South Carolina. Owned by Brian Thomas, Your Dollar Store has been serving the community since June 2021 with a mission to provide fresh produce and essential household items to neighborhoods in need, serving areas like Booker, Washington Heights, and other nearby locations affected by grocery store closures. Your Dollar Store is a convenient one-stop shop for those seeking healthier food options and affordable essentials. Support a local business that's dedicated to giving back. Your Dollar Store, where you can shop, chat, and leave with a smile.
The Hilltop Glove Podcast is sponsored by True Brilliance Entertainment.
True Brilliance is a production, promotions, and management company dedicated to connecting artists and producers across the Carolinas to music industry professionals.
Several of their clients have placements both domestic and internationally as a result of their services.
Are you an artist or producer looking to build meaningful relationships within the music industry? Then True Brilliance is for you. Check them out at paramilitary.com. That's spelled P-A-I-R-A military.com.
Welcome to the Hilltop Glove Podcast.
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 The Hilltop Glove Podcast.
Welcome to another episode of the Hilltop Glove Podcast. Today we have the pleasure of speaking with Coach Kelly Simmons III, a U.S. Army veteran and dedicated youth development leader. With over 14 years in education, he is the founder and CEO of Empower to Win LLC and its nonprofit counterpart, Empower to Win Global. Both focus on aiding at-risk students through scholarships and educational programs. Coach Kelly's initiatives aim to elevate graduation rates, lower dropout rates, and incarceration rates, and promote mental wellness. His organization provides programs on career readiness, self-advocacy, and leadership development to students aged 13 through 21. Today, we will be discussing nurturing the next generation of leaders. How are you today?
I'm great. How are you doing?
Great.
Man.
This is the one day we get to see you on a day off.
Yeah, man, had to come to the hilltop. Had to come up.
Up the hill.
Now. We're at the top. We're up the hill. That's it.
So
good to see y'all.
Good to see you.
Sorry.
So we know Mr. Kelly.
Yes.
Like we see him like every week. So the fact that you guys get to actually see him, we want you to tell us a little bit about your background, upbringing, and how did you become who you are today?
Oh man, it's a loaded question, but from Anderson, South Carolina, we say L.A., Lower Anderson, for some of y'all that don't know. Born and raised, wonderful parents, 4 sisters. I'm the youngest of 5, so I'm the baby, and awesome time growing up. Loving family. Went to T.L. Hanna High School. Everybody know Chadwick Boseman.
Yeah. Of
course, Chadwick grew up. He's younger than me, but, some great things that come out of Anderson. But Dad was a pastor, and PK kid. They say PK kids are the worst, but we just like everybody else, right? But that was my foundation was church, serving and helping people. Leadership started at a young age, of course, in the house, but, in the community where your teachers were your parents' classmates. There was community, participating in Cub Scouts, did all those great things. I didn't start playing sports kind of to later, in my years, like middle school, 8th grade.
Okay.
But, it was still,
What
again,
sports did you play?
football. So it was a lot of sandlot football.
Okay.
Some of those that don't know, the younger guys play with the older guys, and if you cried, you got sent home. So had to learn how to be tough with the tough guys, and but I got into organized sports, and really started taking it a little serious. I was pretty good, right? Okay. So high school, played there, and did some great things there, and went to T.L. Hanna High School, majority white. School.
That's school radio. That's
radio, man. Yeah, radio.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Was live where I played football, ran track, did all that great stuff. And so because of just my exposure to opportunities, I was the first in my family to go to college, right? And, in high school, I was what you call that C and D student with A and B potential. You did just enough to get by, right? But your core was good, because you had your values and things of that nature. But I wanted to go to college. Mm-hmm. So went to Charleston Southern for a year. That was terrible. 1.7 GPA. But I graduated from Lander. And, that's all that matters, had to figure things out. But, man, like I said, just awesome bring up, and now we're here. So I had a great experience. Into where I'm at. I'm
listening to your story. I'm seeing that you played sports. You went to the military. Mm-hmm. What point were you the most disciplined?
Man, it would have to be the pursuit. I was very, very diligent about wanting to do better. Because when I was coming up, your last name meant something, and so it was like, hey, you're not going to bring shame to the family. You could do whatever you wanted to do. Now, don't get me wrong, but you're going to be respectful, of the name. And so to me, it was wanting to make, parents proud. And that was really, important to me. But then at the same time, I wanted to be exposed to things that my parents hadn't been exposed to, and some of my siblings at the time. And I think it was more so of making your parents proud. Yeah. And then when you get to the place where you have a family, you got your house. Y'all know how it is. You go to school, get the car, get the nice job, get the house. We were on that track, Gen X, right? So, yeah. So,
question.
Yep.
So you said your father was a pastor.
Yes, sir.
What denomination?
Baptist.
Okay.
Baptist preacher, man. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We wasn't in some denominations where you're in church, all week, but you had to go to Bible study on Wednesday nights. You definitely go into revival during the summer. You can forget that. And see, back in the day, that's when roller skating was really popular. So you go to the skate ring on Sunday, but you had to be at church. You know what I'm saying? Sunday mornings to go to
Sunday school.
Yeah, but I think my parents were just tired by the time I came around, because they were very strict with my sisters, right? Yeah. So they used to let me go and things like that. But still, that was the thing, back in the day. But you had to go to church, man.
What was it like being your only boy, right?
Right.
Okay, so with your sisters, like growing up, and you're the baby.
Yeah, it was. Of course, my older sisters, I don't remember, a lot, from the first two, but I remember, of course, my sister Jackie and Gwen. They were kind of close in age, and so I kind of was used to them being around. But my younger sister, new baby, and plays boy and all that kind of stuff. She used to leave me outside with the dog. Jealousy and all that type of stuff is real. I think that's where I built my resilience. But but the reality is that they looked out for their baby brother. But it was cool. We really loved each other. And we looked out for each other, but civil rivalry, and things like that. That was common, but the love was there. You know what I mean? And we all looked out for each other. Yep.
So we want to go into more of the next generation. Can you explain the importance of inspiring and encouraging the next generation of kids, students?
I think it's very important because what we learn, what I've learned. You want to pass those things on. And I think to all of us, when it comes to success and our transition, whatever that looks like, into parenthood, going into that career, going into, leaving something in your community, I think you have to reflect and go, to the past, and so for me, what I've learned and how mentorship, remember I mentioned Cub Scouts, Boy Scouts, Mr. Joe, who was my first football coach, and Mr. Leroy Garrison, those guys took time, out for us, my dad. And there was just a lot of community leaders that took time out for us that gave us the opportunity to be exposed. And so, in my heart, I want to be able to share that, with other young people because, generations is changed now. You have grandparents raising their kids.
Yeah.
So it's different, and where we see a lot of kids where, which is interesting, where you're kind of that voice, especially a male voice. Man, it's almost like having a father's voice, where a lot of our kids whose fathers have been absent, when they hear that male's voice, because I believe personally, this is just me, I believe young people, they want to be coached. I believe they want to be led. I think they love authority, but it's just a matter of, adults being able to take time out to be able to give that. So, that's our focus with Empowered to Win. Of course, my wife and I, we started that initiative, which actually it started back in a faith-based organization that we started kind of in my hometown, helping kids through AAU basketball. We had that was the foundation and the genesis. It's called Rock Nation.
Okay.
Representing our Christ throughout the nations. It was a faith-based initiative using basketball to help kids. And so that's just been the journey through sports, through education, and now, just where we are now is through, like I said, that education, that leadership component. So we got to give back to our kids to help them be prepared for the next thing to come.
So how did you actually get to that point? You're a career specialist, certified? Yeah. Career specialist. Is that the point that led you to starting Empowered to Win?
Yeah, I'll say I failed my way to it.
Okay, you got to explain this.
Yeah, I'm going. It was never. Now, the only time I was thinking about education was when I was in college. After I changed my major about 4 or 5 times, right? Because I wanted to be an accountant. Man, that sounds great, right? It sounds wonderful. So you start taking accounting 101, right? Not happening, right? Education, they started talking about lesson plans. Nope, not doing that either. That's too much. I'm sticking with business, right? That's what we're going to do. But what I mean is that when I graduated from Lander, went into the military. I was an ROTC guy, so I was commissioned as an officer, had joined the reserves, had some experiences there, got hurt, got out of the military, went into corporate America, went into sales, did sales for a number of years. Love that, but it's a hustle and it's a grind, right? So I said, man, I'm doing it, but I still feel empty, right? And so it wasn't until I had the opportunity, a friend of mine introduced me to being a job coach at a charter high school. Shout out to Richland One Middle College. That's where I started out in education. And the reason why I say I fell forward into this, all of my experiences kind of culminated, and it really was preparing me to work with students because I could kind of talk to them when we talk about careers. And there's right now, the world that we're living in now, there's no cookie cutter approach to education.
Exactly.
Everybody's not going to college, right? Some going to the military, some now entrepreneurs, right?
Yep.
So I could kind of touch on that. And so that's where I really found my purpose. And that's kind of what led to Empowered to Win, where we went from kind of that nonprofit sector to a for-profit, right? And say, hey, man, we can make money doing this. And so it really, but really with the intent to help our kids and help them to get to the next level. So, yeah.
So how has the youth development changed your life since starting? Oh,
man. Believe it or not, what happens is that those you serve, they serve you. So it's really like therapy because, as I'm working with young people, you start seeing yourself.
Yeah,
it's
really
true.
Do.
You see yourself and sometimes things are not always right. You're not feeling the best, but you remember your lows, you remember your highs, and you're able to see yourself in them. It really helps. Because again, if you're in it for the right reason, right, and you're doing it right, because it's not about the money, those things can come and it's a place and a space for that. Yeah. But it really has been therapy for me because they're your best teachers, They're
like a mirror.
Yeah.
No, they are. Yeah. They exactly. And I think sometimes, when you have when you're very inquisitive, and what I mean by that is really trying to find out, what their hot topics are. What is it that they want to do, right? It challenges you, right, to get to know and to build that relationship. And I think that that's what our young people are really looking for. And I think that that's kind of one of those special things that we have discovered in what we do. It's about the relationship, that trust factor. So, yeah, I've learned so much.
Oh, so with that said, of course, when it comes to that relationship factor, of course, there's respect that's involved in that, right? And so, how do you, and we've seen this firsthand, but how do you command respect when entering a room full of students for the first time?
Yeah.
Because, a lot of times they just be disrespectful, sometimes be yelling, and so how do you go about doing
This is the secret sauce, man. Y'all got to pay for this. No, I'm just kidding. It starts with respect first, respecting them first. See, it used to be a day and time where, a kid walked in the room, you spoke to adults. Yes, sir. No, ma'am. That's how it was when I was coming up. It's not like that anymore, right? So unless they have someone in their life that's teaching them, hey, shake their hands, introduce yourself. But the key for us, man, we come in with respect. How you doing, ma'am? Hey, how you doing, sir? You know what I'm saying? I like those shoes right there, right? You're awesome, man. I love that smile. Smile again. And so it's really putting the attention on them and showing that respect to them first. If you want it, it's kind of like, if you want it, you got to give it first.
Yeah.
That's where we're at now, because again, some of our kids, again, their parents or maybe sometimes could not be the most respectful, or they're not enforcing it. And let me say it this way, that you can even have children or students who have great parents. But I came up in the yes, ma'am, no, ma'am, yes, sir, no, ma'am, no, yes, sir, no, sir era. But we have some parents, doesn't mean that they're bad kids, but it's amazing that, that respect factor can get you through some doors that they're not, So we try to model it, and that's how, it works for us. Yeah.
So what are the next steps after students or kids finish your program?
Well, it goes back to the respect factor, right? What we intend to do is to find out what they're interested in. We're not dream killers. If an individual child say, "Hey, I want to be a rapper," no problem. You just got to put the work in. It's important that you understand how to read, because you got to understand contracts. All your homies, we learned that back in the day. You can't be MC Hammer, and bring your whole village with you, right? Because you're going to go broke. So you need to understand math, right? And so when you break it down that way and really figuring out what it is that they want to do, my job is to put the weight on the bar, right? But now you got to push it. Right. And so what helps is giving them the opportunity to say, hey, this is what I'm interested in. Well, okay, if this is what you're interested in, this is what it's going to take to get there. And so what we do is we take them through like self-advocacy. We start kind of there first. How do you advocate for yourself in this field? If you want to go into the military, what does that mean? Or if you have a disability, right? How do you speak up for yourself? Because just because you have a disability doesn't mean inability.
Right.
Yes.
Or you're not capable.
Yeah, that you're not capable, right? We just got to work that. And so we take them from self-advocacy to leadership. And I'll probably talk about that a little bit later. Leadership is what we found is the foundation. How can we help them to develop into leaders? And then what it is that they're interested in, how do they, study? How do they research what the expectation is to become an engineer? So when they're going through these classes, and then we bring the community in to that, now you can kind of put those essential skills, those things that you've learned in our class, into practice, right, with the Mr. Kevin, so that now you can find that opportunity. So we've seen students going to become doctors, entrepreneurs, in corporate America, military. I mean, we've served thousands of students, and so it's awesome when you're able to see the kids that you've served and they come through your program. Now they have families. Yeah. So that's the reward. When you're able to see that. Yeah.
And I think one thing I want to go back to that you said is really key, especially when it comes to careers, is you really focused on, like you highlighted self-advocacy.
Right.
And you highlighted leadership.
Right.
Right. And I think a lot of times, especially when you're sitting there and you're working with students and they're giving you those same types of answers on what they want to do in careers, they haven't really had the opportunity to really explore, like you said, because it's introspective, right? They haven't really had that opportunity to be able to actually realize, like, what do I actually like? not necessarily what's cool,
right,
or what's socially acceptable.
Right.
And I think that's one of the things that I've witnessed just from like the students that you work with in your program.
Mm-hmm.
You could tell those students have taken those steps, not just thinking on the surface about just what's acceptable, but really like what's truly passionate for me, what I like to go into, what makes me happy.
Right.
And it's great being able to see, like you said, those progresses, those changes. This is the conversations we've had with a lot of the kids.
Absolutely. One of the things that I want to add, just going back to the respect, I think, and you have to be careful with this. You have to have boundaries, but I think the transparency is very important. Mm-hmm. Of course, I'm from Anderson, but we live in Eastover, outside of Columbia, South Carolina, right? But when I came, I messed up the mic. When I came to Columbia, South Carolina, back in 2007, I was homeless. A lot of folks don't know that. And so one of the things I talk about, I joke with kids, I say, hey man, anybody know what it's like to sleep on an air mattress? You blow that bad boy up today, and when you wake up in the morning, you a burrito. That thing then wrapped around just stuff, so they bust out laughing. I say, yeah, man, yeah, coach, I know what that's like. See, and because that's all of us, I think we all have had, struggles in pursuit of whatever it is that we were pursuing. And I think that helps, with the transparency, because sometimes and I like wearing, the hoodies, T-shirts. I can wear the suit. Sometimes I do that, but it's about being relatable. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Now, it's another thing. Let me go and talk about this right? Because I'm 50 years old. If y'all didn't know that, I'm 50 years old. I know it. I look like I'm 34, right? Like I'm 34. But check this out, though. Let's see. But the thing is that, you feel like, hey, man, I'm getting older. I'm losing touch. But, the reality is that, I believe, when God gifts you in certain areas, you're relatable, where you don't have to come across, even though I'm 50. The reality is that if you just be your authentic self, that a lot of kids can respect you,
But they can see right through
They can see, man, listen, that's why I love kids. Man, that joker don't know what he talking about. He corny on to the next person.
They'll call you out.
They'll call you out. Oh man, especially when we call it going behind the fence. Now that's a whole different breed. See, when you go behind the fence, when you go behind the fence, listen. If you hate somebody that's maybe on your team and you want to get rid of them, send them behind. Y'all, that's basically kids that are, maybe DJJ. Shout out to DJJ. We love DJJ. We love all of our kids, and that's doing great things there. But when you go behind the fence, right? Most people, you use technology because you can read slides, right? So they don't care about them slides. They care about your heart. Yeah. Because they have people coming to them all the time, talking to them and preaching at them. And they're really looking at, again, man, do you really care? And so what we tell them, I don't care where you come from. That's not my job. My job is to help you to where you're going. Yeah. Even beyond these. And I think that's it. Everybody has some type of hope or desire to be hopeful for something. And so that's the other piece, man. Like I said, from a rapper to whatever it is that you want to do, hey, man, let's go. Let's make it happen. How can we help you get there? That's the key. Yeah. Yeah.
And can you also talk about, showing up and being present for them and then keeping your word? Because I know that's a big thing with the kids.
Yeah.
You do not bring that candy when you said you were going to bring some candy.
Yeah. It's over.
Yeah.
They're going to eat you alive.
Yeah.
They're going to eat you alive. The thing about it is being willing to pivot. Because, see, sometimes as adults and when you're working with kids, you have your agenda, right? And I think that's where a lot of people mess up because you have your agenda. But today, we may not want to be talking about self-advocacy. We just might need to exhale. Yeah. Hey, guys, what's going on? And I think that's where we get in trouble, where you can kind of feel the temperature in the room, but now you're trying to impose your will. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? And instead of letting them drive the conversation. And so I think that's very, very, important. And I think, I never forget this. Because I'm always big on when I'm doing classes and training, I make the kids, we bring them note sheets and I make them write the facilitator's name down. I said, listen, whoever's in the classroom teaching, you get their name, you put the date down, right? And you write your notes, right? So I'm pushing that day one. Probably like our fourth session, it was this fourth session I had forgot my note-taking sheets. right? And so I told the kids, I said, listen, y'all just pull out a white sheet of paper and write, no, coach, no, I need my note-taking sheet. Because what I do is I write your name down. See, what is that? That's accountability.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? I get my notes, and when I go lay down, I read through my notes. I need my note-taking sheet. See,
It's structured though, too.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what I'm saying. A lot of our kids want that. They want structure.
Yeah.
Right. So again, you can't just talk about it. You got to be about it. I said, you know what? And this is the other thing about gaining respect. I'm wrong.
Yeah.
And you right.
Admitting it. Yeah.
Admitting it. A lot of our kids. Oh man, listen. I'm married, and my wife's name is Kelly. Listen here, y'all. I lost some cool points because one of the young ladies, we were talking about faithfulness. I hope I'm not getting off track, but I want to say it because it's very important. Okay, cool. All right, I'm at Hilltop. I'm good, man. It was like this, right? I was talking about my wife and our relationship, and I said I don't cheat on my wife. There was this female in the room. Oh yeah, all dogs, all men are dogs. Everybody cheat. I said no, they don't. I said, I'm a faithful, there's no doghouse in my house. We get along. I ain't cheating on my wife. No. And what happened, I got in my flesh. I was going tit for tat. This, that, and other. You just don't know. I do love my wife. I love my wife. Y'all know what happened, man? Check it out. It was a heart check. Because when I went home, it was like, man, I don't know what people believe in, your faith and stuff like that, but it was like God said, go back and apologize. So I got up the next day, had class, and I called a young lady forward. I said, listen, y'all. I said, Coach Kelly got out of pocket. And I said, young lady, I want to tell you publicly, I'm sorry. She didn't even know how to handle that because she's never experienced an adult apologizing. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I was wrong, and you were right. Yeah. And we were cool. So we gave it a little fist bump. And so that, when I'm talking about vulnerability and being transparent, that's how we win the hearts of our kids. So yeah. It didn't get physical though. I was speaking from my heart.
Thank goodness.
So can you talk about the different organizations you work with?
Oh yeah. Big shout out to Willow Gray, Opportunity School. My wife and I, Empowered to Win, we've been operating. We've been doing this for over, like I said, 14, 15 years. But company-wise, Empowered to Win, we've been in operation for 5 years. And I got to start with Willow Gray Opportunity School because they gave me an opportunity, to work with students. And we didn't get into this. I believe God really just put us in position for business because we were just wanting to help kids, right? And so when we started working with Willow Gray Opportunity School, we've been there now probably 7+ years, serving kids. And from there, we started building relationships with South Carolina Vote Rehab, working with students with disabilities, Boys and Girls Clubs of the Midlands and the Crescent region, working with teens, Midlands Middle, a lot of schools and organizations that's just been great. It's just a lot of organizations that we've had the blessing. Richland County Sheriff's Department. So we have been really blessed to do what we do and to serve and connect with a lot of great people. I saw Terrence Tucker, shout out to Big Tuck, coming through. I saw Tuck not too long ago, so we were able to collaborate with some great people. Doing mentorship and great things in the community. So that has really been the bloodline for our organization is great. Is partnering with other great organizations. The Hilltop Glove, Kids Glove. Oh, it was coming.
I know.
I'm gonna give me a T-shirt, guys. That's it. Shout out to Hilltop Gloves, Kid Gloves.
I know.
Through Boys and Girls Club, Kev. We've been doing a lot of great things. Y'all are doing amazing work because the reality is that you can't do it by yourself.
Right.
You have to have people with the right heart, the right intent, and who love their craft to be able to help our kids. So yeah, those are some of the organizations that we have worked with, and you guys, man, it's been awesome.
Now, can you explain the importance of continuing your education and professional development?
Oh yeah, we tell young people, you're just beginning. Whether you're getting your high school diploma, your GED, your certification, y'all know how we used to think, man, once I get this degree, it's over.
Yeah,
I'm
it.
done.
Nah.
Right? Look at us right now, podcasting.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? 20 years ago, what was that? You know,
Radio.
Yeah, radio. Yeah. I mean, computers now in our palms. We're always learning. Things are always changing. Things are always evolving. And so, you know, it's just one of those things that it's just forever, it's just forever evolving. And I think whether you go into the military, whether you go into corporate America, especially entrepreneurs, you know, right now we see so many young people that are aspiring entrepreneurs, successful entrepreneurs. Sure. So in business, it's going to shift. Yeah. Your clientele, customers are going to shift. Money is going to shift. Yeah. What we're seeing right now. So you got to learn how to pivot. So education is just a part of the game. That's not going anywhere until we leave here. So that's important.
So how can parents encourage their kids to continue their education?
Ooh, man, you said it right there. Sometimes, and I know you mentioned, again, at-risk youth. I think there are parents who are at risk because sometimes we just don't know. You know, I think, when we talk about the generational gaps, right, and the different generations, I think our generation was, Gen Xers were, hey, we saw what our parents went through. Yeah. We're going to go get educated. Right, we're gonna go make that money, so our kids won't have to endure.
Right,
and so what happened is we've built a bunch of spoiled brats. I know it's not everybody, I know, but it's like, hey, I don't want you to work as hard as I had to. Yeah. But it's that's where the essential skills are. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? That's life changing, you know what I'm saying? And that's impacting your life. And so, when it comes to sometimes our parents, sometimes we just don't know. And we do, parenting workshops and different things for parents, because even right now, we're seeing a lot of grandparents, again, are raising their children's children. And so, we try to provide resources, with parents. But I think that parents need to understand that, it's just like if you have 2 or 3 kids, all your kids are different.
Yep. Right.
There's all different there's different needs for each one. And so you have to learn how to pivot in your parenting. What worked, again, back then, it's not working because you yelling that's going to solve anything. That's not helping the situation right now. Exactly. Because guess what? Your son is talking to somebody at school that'll listen to them and they're not yelling at them or they're making them feel, and typically that's their friends. Yeah. That's why they're on the video games. That's because that's their community.
That's why on social media. That's why chat boxes, all that stuff.
Right. But then it starts getting into this thing of comparison, which is the enemy of progress. Right? If I'm not seeing how Tamaya's doing it or Kevin's doing it, then I'm not, doing it. But it's something about hearing it from a parent that, you know what, as we tell parents, man, just celebrate often. When they're doing something right, when they're doing things great, give them a high five. Yeah. Maybe don't take them from a C to an A. Take it from a C to a B. Hey, I'm excited for you to do those types of things. But, again, what we do with young people, it's got to be reinforced again by the parents. And they are great parents. Shout out to all the great parents out there, great grandparents and great grandparents that maybe are raising and helping with their children. But we gotta continue to do, our part as parents and grow and develop.
So basically be a cheerleader, always cheering them on and encouraging them.
Right. But then also, but holding them accountable as well. Yeah. You got to hold them accountable. You got to have discipline. Because what I found is that, with a lot of our children, even that may not come from the best situation, they still love discipline.
Yeah.
They still love structure. At the end of the day, it's just how it's packaged.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And you're right about that, because I know even with my daughter, right? One of the things is that my daughter's so used to is she knows before she goes to bed, she always gets a story.
Right.
And that's the accountability piece, that structure piece tied to it. Because if I'm slipping and I forget to get a book,
that's right,
to grab that book, she's like, Daddy, where's my story? I want to read a story. And I'm like, oh, okay, I got to go get my story, right?
That's right.
And so they hold you accountable like that. And so it's neat seeing that even at an early age, they understand the value and importance of that.
That's right, man. It's like dating. You better not start at Ruth Chris. Listen here.
Ever hit McDonald's?
You're going to be messed up, brother, from the top to the bottom. We have a standard here, but you can't afford that standard. You need to be at McDonald's where they got something on the menu for everybody. Well, and even that's getting tough now. You know, you used to get $1. Now that thing $2.
Yes.
You said $1.50, that's $2. That's $3.
Yeah.
But I'm saying times have changed.
That's true. That's very true. Yeah, you're right.
So how can the community support the work that you're doing?
Oh, man. How the community can support. First of all, the community has been great in supporting and whatever that looks like. I think for us is continuing and even opening up doors, whether, all of our administrators, teachers, giving us the opportunity and Empowered to Win, myself, Coach Kelly, come in and work with your students. I think continuing to serve, because again, no one organization can do it. Yeah. I think we can pass the baton. Big Homie, shout out to Big Homie, Little Homie. We collaborate, some of their young men, they'll come over to, what we're doing, and vice versa. We'll send kids there to refer. I think if we can refer to each other, because it's just never enough, work that we can do. And I think we have to come out of our silos, right? And just thinking somebody's gonna, take your kid. That kid doesn't belong to you. I look at it like this. They belong to God, man. Let's just give them what they need, give them the tools that they need so they can be successful. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, if you're not a parent, you'll soon find out. At the end of the day, and when you grow, just like, my wife and I, we have kids. So, we say things and we do things, but it's the community. It's the importance of that somebody out there in the community that can reinforce, what dad and mom is saying. You know what I'm saying? So that I don't care, bro. If Kevin can talk to you and help you and the light bulb go off, hey man, praise God, we winning. So yeah, we just got to continue to work together.
I'm glad you mentioned that one, because that's serious when it comes to education. Especially when you're working with youth, is like you said, is very territorial, especially when it comes to the kids. And that's one of the first things I learned years and years ago. Right. It's wild. And you feel bad because sometimes you can tell, like, the student may not really be receptive to what you're offering, but they may benefit more from this other program, but you're keeping them away from that opportunity, maybe because you have a relationship with that parent. Right. So if you having a relationship with that parent, that's gonna keep the kids sitting in that, sitting there with you, and where they could really be thriving if they did something else. Right. And it's like, we know, and this is just food for thought. Yeah. We have to understand that we don't always have the best thing. We don't always have the best offer. There's someone else that can do it better. There's someone else maybe is a good fit. It's like business. If everybody's doing business with you, you're not doing business right. Right? And so the reality is that you got to say, hey, you know what? I can't handle that. You can't do everything. Right. Yeah. You got to specialize in what you specialize and let those that have that gift to do that, do that. And I think that we got to get to the place where we don't allow money. And I think, the integrity behind what we do stand in the way of doing what's right, for the kids. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think we're kind of learning that. We bring in different guests to talk to the kids, and we get
y'all
to
do
see,
an awesome job of that.
Who's gravitating towards, or how the kids are gravitating towards that guest. Yeah. And we have seen a big shock and difference in them. The questions that they ask, the interviews, and how they respond. Even after the person has left, you get to see them improve and grow. So the different, you handle a wide range of kids. What age range would you say has grown the most?
I would say our 16, now we serve, in Empowered to Win, we serve students ages 13 to 21, right? Okay. But where I think our sweet spot has been is at 16 to 19. Okay. Right? It's almost like being in middle school, where you think you're on full grown, but you're a baby. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? You're still kind of spoiled one, but then when you're kind of making that transition from high school or getting that GED into the real world, that's our sweet spot. Okay. And so that's where we've seen a lot of the success, because a lot of kids some of them have already experienced so much trauma. Yeah. Some of them have, and it's not always trauma. I don't want to make it always seem like we're working with the bad kids, but let me just go and say that you can have both parents in the house and making money, and your child's at risk. I believe all of our kids are at risk of something, right? Yeah. And so the reality is that that's where we've seen kind of them make that seamless transition from where they are to where they want to go. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what current projects are you working on?
Oh man, got that book coming. Got the book coming. Yes, the Winning Leadership Challenge. 8 steps for students to empower the winning leader within.
Okay.
We believe that there's a winning leader in all of our students, and over the years, what I've just realized is that I think the foundation is leadership.
Yeah.
You know, and them starting with themselves. So we got the book coming out. That's going on Mother's Day.
Okay.
Weekend is when we're launching it in Columbia, South Carolina. Hilltop got to be there.
Yeah, of course.
Right?
Of course we'll be
Hopefully May 24th.
Okay.
That's when we'll be launching and releasing the book here in Columbia, South Carolina. So I'm excited about that. And I'm trying to do this stuff y'all doing, you know, the Winning Leadership Department podcast.
I saw it the other day.
Yeah, I'm just, we're kind of getting that, those juices flowing, just kind of dropping those shorts. But we want to start interviewing. And I'd be honest with y'all, I mean, I really was inspired, Kev, by your work, what you guys are doing. And so we wanted to do the same thing, and which was inspired by the book. And so we call the podcast the Winning Leadership Department. So that's going to be rolling out hopefully in the next month or two. And so we can impact and have some great leaders on there to help our kids.
Cool.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
So how do you balance it all?
Man, planning. You got to plan, right? I go to bed early.
How
right?
early?
I go to bed about 9:30.
Oh.
Like, man, you go to bed early.
Let's go a bit early.
Yeah, but see, I wake up early though.
How early?
4:30
Oh,
in the
okay.
morning.
I need numbers. I need to know.
Right. But you know why? Because that's when I'm most creative.
Yeah.
Okay.
You got to know when you're most creative and right? And your meditation time, spending time with God, praying, all those types of things. And that's really where I get a lot of my ideas. So, for me, you have to plan that. Right, in order to balance all the things, and I'm still learning, because being an entrepreneur and I'm a leader at my church. I'm an elder at my church, so I'm serving people on a lot of different levels.
Yeah.
So, but what you have to learn with that, to whom much is given, much is required. But you got to be able to balance and delegate.
Yeah.
And that's where you have to learn there's certain things that you can't do. Like my wife is the administrator. I promise you right now, we probably wouldn't be paid if it wasn't for her, right? Because that's not what I do. So you have to plan and incorporate those and put systems in place to help you do the other things efficient.
The other Kelly.
The other Kelly.
Is in charge.
My wife named Kelly.
Man, when I first met you, I was so confused with the
too.
correspondence of the email.
Not our last name.
Yeah.
I was so confused. I was like, wait, so her name is Kelly too?
Yes.
He was like, yeah. I'm like, wait, so his name is Kelly too? Yes. Oh, okay.
But one just got the E in it.
EY and Y.
Yeah. That's
Oh,
it.
okay.
She's the one who got the EY with the power in it. Yeah. She's super awesome. Just tell you, I'm going to shout out to my wife. Man, I'm going to tell you something right now, man. Find a good wife, you find a great thing, and obtain favor from the Lord. That's what the scripture says, right? But here's the deal. When we got together, again, man, I was starting over. I went through a divorce, honestly. And y'all know I was talking about that air mattress.
Yeah.
Yeah, first thing I did, man, we saw them googly eyes. I said, man, she's cool. I think she's going to be the one. First thing I did is I took her to that air mattress. I said, this is all I got. You know what she said? I don't care about the air mattress. I care about you. Let me tell you something, guys. Took it to the next level. That's right. That's right. That's right. But hold on. She always gets on me. She said, don't be making the people feel like, I just accepted you like you were some whatever. Right? This is what she said. She said, you had potential. You had potential. So I'm coming out with a training on potential. Because see, potential has to turn into productivity.
Yeah.
You can have all the potential in the world, but if you don't take that potential and put it into something to create something, oh man, I'm telling y'all, I'm letting the cat out the bag.
That's the preacher coming out. You
That's the preacher coming out. Potential to productivity. Yeah. Anyway, that's it. Yeah, shout out.
So how can everyone find you on social media, the website, if they want to book you?
Yes. Yeah. Check my website out, Coach Kelly Simmons.com. On all social media platforms, TikTok. I was challenged by a kid. One of my students said, hey, if you're going to reach these kids, reach the kids and reach this generation, you got to be on TikTok.
You really do.
So I really am, believe it or not, even though I'm talking like I'm talking now, I haven't always been this way. And so we're pushing our social media platform, all handles, Coach Kelly Simmons. Go check me out and follow me and subscribe. Yeah. Yeah.
Well, thank you. This was a good
Yes.
episode. I'm
Man,
glad
y'all
people
are-
got to, see how much work you actually do out here.
I appreciate it. I appreciate it. This is awesome. Y'all are doing great work. Keep doing what you're doing because y'all inspiring many.
You keep doing what you're doing because you
Yeah.
inspire us.
Yeah.
Hey, that's it. See what happens when collaboration takes place.
Yes.
It's awesome, y'all. Yes. Thank you.
Thank you. So we're going to sign out on this episode. Thank you guys for tuning in to learn how to be a winning leader. And we want to say thanks for Skip and Mike and Kevin. And of course, our guest, Mr. Kelly Simmons III. You guys tune in for another episode.
Peace.
Peace.
The Hilltop Girl Podcast.